Hi, Reddit. My name's Ryan, and I honestly don't know why I'm writing this. Maybe it's to get it off my chest. Maybe it's to make sense of the insanity my life turned into last night. All I know is, this story isn't just mine anymore. It's something I need to share. It all began with a hunch. Jessica, my wife of 6 years, had been distant for months. At first, I chalked it up to stress. Her job had gotten demanding, or at least that's what she kept saying. But the excuses started piling up. Business trips that seemed oddly timed, dinner plans she suddenly couldn't make, and worst of all, the coldness. It was like I'd become a stranger in my own home. I did what every trusting idiot of a husband does. I ignored it. I told myself it was a phase, that it'd blow over. Until last week, when I found something I couldn't unsee. Jessica had left her laptop open on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower. I wasn't snooping, I swear. I just glanced at the screen as I walked by. That's when I saw it. A calendar event titled Dinner with A. It was innocuous enough, but my gut twisted. I couldn't shake the feeling that wasn't just a friend or a colleague. Against my better judgment, I clicked on it. The location was a fancy restaurant we'd never been to, the kind of place she always said we couldn't afford. The time? That very night. She never mentioned it to me. Not a word. When Jessica came out of the shower, wrapped in her robe with her hair dripping onto the floor, I casually asked, "Got any plans tonight?" She froze for half a second, just enough for me to notice, then smiled. "Nope, just tired. Might go to bed early." That's when I knew. I didn't confront her. I didn't ask questions. I just nodded and walked away, my heart pounding. I needed proof, something solid. I waited until she left, all dressed up in a black dress I hadn't seen her wear in years. She called it her special occasion dress, and tonight, it apparently wasn't for me. I followed her. Yeah, I know how that sounds, but I had to. She took an Uber to a place across town, an upscale rooftop bar. I parked a block away and waited in my car, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. I didn't know what I was expecting to see, but when Jessica walked in and immediately hugged some guy, my world shattered. He wasn't just some guy. He was tall, well-dressed, and way too comfortable with his hands on my wife's waist. They laughed, ordered drinks, and leaned in close like two high school kids sneaking kisses in the hallway. I should have walked away, but I couldn't. I just sat there, watching my marriage crumble in real time. After an hour, they left together, arm in arm. I trailed them to a nearby hotel, where they disappeared inside without a second thought. I didn't follow them in. I couldn't. My stomach churned at the thought of what was happening upstairs. That night, I barely slept. My mind was a storm of rage, betrayal, and self-loathing. How had I not seen this coming? How long had this been going on? And the worst question of all, why wasn't I enough? The next morning, Jessica came home like nothing had happened. She kissed me on the cheek, made herself a coffee, and even asked if I wanted to go out for dinner later. I played along. I acted like the clueless husband she clearly thought I was. But inside, I was already plotting my next move. I wasn't going to scream or throw things. I wasn't going to beg her to stay. No, I had something better in mind. Something that would leave her speechless. That's how I found myself standing in front of her and her lover just last night, holding a small velvet box in my hand. The moment their eyes met mine, they froze. Jessica's face turned ashen, and the man, her so-called stared at me like a deer caught in headlights. "Jessica," I said, my voice calm despite the chaos in my chest. "I believe this belongs to you." I handed her the box. She opened it slowly, her hands trembling. Inside was her wedding ring, the one she'd taken off before meeting him. The silence that followed was deafening. And then, everything exploded. Jessica's hand hovered over the open box, her face a twisted mix of shock, fear, and guilt. Her lover, let's call him Alex, stood frozen, like he was trying to process whether I was real or a ghost from their worst nightmares. "Ryan, she stammered, but I didn't let her finish. "No need for explanations, Jessica," I said, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. "I've seen enough." Alex finally found his voice. "Look, man, this isn't what it looks like." I turned to him sharply, cutting him off with a glare. "Save it. I know exactly what it looks like, and I'm done playing the fool. The restaurant around us had gone quiet. Every head in the place was turned our way, eyes wide with curiosity and horror. Some people whispered to each other, while others just stared, waiting to see how this would unfold. Jessica stood up abruptly, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Ryan, let's not do this here. Let's talk at home." "Talk?" I repeated, laughing bitterly. "You mean lie? Like you've been doing for months?" Her face paled even more, and I knew I'd hit the mark. "You think I don't know about the hotel, Jessica? About all the late nights and secret meetings?" I leaned in closer, lowering my voice to a whisper only she could hear. "I followed you. I saw everything." Her eyes widened in panic, and for a moment, I thought she might faint. Alex looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. "I can explain," she said, her voice shaking. "Oh, I'm sure you can," I said, straightening up. "But here's the thing. I don't care anymore." I pulled a small envelope from my pocket and placed it on the table in front of her. "Divorce papers," I said simply. The entire room gasped. It was like a scene out of a movie, and for a moment, I felt like I was watching someone else's life. Jessica's hands trembled as she picked up the envelope. "You can't be serious," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "Oh, I'm dead serious," I replied. "You wanted to throw away our marriage for this." I gestured at Alex, who was now staring at the floor like a scolded child. "So congratulations. You got your wish." I turned to leave, but then I stopped, something inside me unwilling to let them off that easily. "One more thing," I said, turning back to face them. Jessica looked up at me, her eyes pleading. I took out my phone, tapped the screen a few times, and then held it up for them to see. It was a video. Their video? The one from the hotel security footage, showing Jessica and Alex entering hand in hand. Jessica gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Alex looked like he was going to be sick. How did you get that?" she stammered. "I have my ways," I said coolly. "Consider this a little insurance policy. Try to fight me in court, Jessica, and this goes public." Her face crumpled, and for a moment, I almost felt bad. Almost. Without another word, I turned and walked out of the restaurant, leaving them to deal with the aftermath. But as I stepped out into the cool night air, I realized this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Jessica wasn't the type to go down quietly, and I had a sinking feeling she'd try to make my life hell before this was done. And honestly, I was ready for it. Walking out of that restaurant felt liberating, but the weight of everything that had just happened settled in as soon as I got to my car. My hands were trembling as I gripped the steering wheel, my mind replaying Jessica's face when she saw the ring, the divorce papers, and the video. I should have felt victorious, but instead, I felt hollow. The drive home was a blur. The house, once a place of comfort, now felt like a stranger's. I sat on the couch, staring at the wedding photo on the wall. It felt like a cruel joke, a frozen reminder of a life that no longer existed. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept expecting Jessica to show up, to bang on the door and demand answers. But she didn't come home. Not that night, not the next day. Instead, she sent a text. "Jessica, we need to talk." I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. But ignoring her didn't mean I was off the hook. 2 days later, she showed up at the house with a suitcase in hand. "Ryan," she said, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. "Please, can we just talk?" I leaned against the doorframe, crossing my arms. "About what? How you lied, cheated, or how you thought I'd just roll over and let you destroy me?" She flinched but didn't back down. "I messed up, okay? But we've been together for 6 years. Doesn't that count for anything?" I laughed, the sound bitter and hollow. "Funny, I was going to ask you the same thing." Jessica stepped closer, her eyes glassy with tears. "Ryan, I don't want to lose you. I made a mistake, but we can fix this. We can go to therapy, talk things through." "Therapy?" I cut her off, my voice rising. "You want to fix this with therapy? Jessica, you didn't trip and fall into some guy's bed. You planned this. You lied to me over and over again. And now that you've been caught, now you want to fix it?" She reached out, but I stepped back, shaking my head. "Don't. Just don't." Her tears fell freely now, but I wasn't moved. For months, I'd begged her to let me in, to tell me what was wrong, and she'd shut me out every time. Now, it was too late. "What about the video?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Don't worry," I said coldly. "It's not going anywhere, as long as you don't try to screw me over in the divorce. But if you think you're walking away with half of everything after what you did, you're delusional." Jessica's expression hardened. The guilt and tears were gone, replaced by the cold, calculating look I'd seen too many times before. "Fine," she snapped. "You want to play hardball? Let's see how you like it when I tell everyone you've been emotionally abusive for years. I'll make sure you're the bad guy, Ryan." There it was. The real Jessica, the one who always had to win, no matter the cost. "Go ahead," I said, my voice steady. "Tell them whatever you want. But remember, I have proof. Proof of everything. So, unless you want the whole world to see exactly what kind of person you are, I'd suggest you rethink that plan." She glared at me, her jaw clenched. "You're going to regret this, Ryan. You'll see." With that, she turned and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The silence that followed was deafening, but I knew it wouldn't last. Jessica wasn't done with me, not by a long shot. And as much as I wanted to believe I could move on, deep down, I knew this was just the beginning. A few days later, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Unknown, you don't know me, but I think you need to see this." Attached was a photo of Jessica and Alex in what looked like a hotel room. But it wasn't just a random picture. It was a screenshot from a live streaming app. My stomach dropped. What the hell was going on? I stared at the screen, my heart pounding like a jackhammer. The photo wasn't just damning. It was disturbing. Jessica and Alex were seated on a hotel bed, both smirking, their faces illuminated by the cold glow of a camera. The timestamp on the screenshot was from last night. I didn't recognize the number, but whoever sent the message clearly knew what they were doing. My hands shook as I typed back. "Me? Who is this? What is this about?" The reply came almost instantly. "Unknown. Let's just say I'm someone who doesn't like what they're doing. Check this link." Beneath the message was a hyperlink. Every part of me screamed not to click it, but curiosity, or maybe anger, overrode my caution. I tapped the link, and my phone's browser opened to a live streaming platform. And there they were, Jessica and Alex, laughing and drinking in the same hotel room from the photo. The title of the stream read, "Lovebirds Getaway, Tips Welcome." I froze, disbelief washing over me. They were live streaming their little rendezvous, smiling like they didn't have a care in the world. People were commenting, throwing tips their way like this was some kind of sick reality show. Commenter 1, "What a cute couple. Get married already." Commenter 2, "This guy's wife left him for this stud. Savage." Commenter 3, "Big respect for the upgrade." The bile rose in my throat. They were broadcasting my humiliation to the world, turning my pain into entertainment for strangers. Before I could think, I saved the link, took screenshots, and closed the browser. My mind raced. Was this some kind of twisted revenge? Did Jessica think this would make me come crawling back, begging for her forgiveness? If she thought that, she didn't know me at all. The next day, I called my lawyer. I explained everything, the infidelity, the live stream, the threats Jessica made when I confronted her. My lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Diane, didn't mince words. "This is bad," she said bluntly, "but it could also work in your favor. If we can prove she's using your shared assets to fund this escapade, it'll strengthen your case in the divorce." "How do we do that?" I asked, my voice raw. "Leave that to me," she said. "But Ryan, you need to be prepared. People like Jessica don't go down without a fight. She's going to try to drag you through the mud." "I don't care," I said, my jaw tightening. "I just want her out of my life." Diane nodded, her sharp eyes meeting mine. "Then let's make it happen." The next few days were a whirlwind. Diane worked her magic, gathering evidence and preparing our case. Meanwhile, Jessica's antics escalated. She started posting cryptic messages on social media, painting herself as the victim of an emotionally abusive marriage. One post read, "Sometimes you have to leave toxic people behind to find your true happiness." Hashtag freedom, hashtag new beginnings. Her friends and followers ate it up, showering her with support. Commenter 1. You deserve so much better, Jess. Commenter 2. Proud of you for standing up for yourself. Commenter 3. He didn't know what he had. His loss. I wanted to scream, to tell the world the truth. But Diane warned me against responding. Let her dig her own grave, she said. You have the facts. That's all that matters. Then, the bombshell dropped. A few days later, I received another text from the same unknown number. Unknown. Thought you'd want to see this. It was another link, but this time, it led to a news article. The headline read, Infidelity Scandal Rocks Popular Live Streamers. My stomach clenched as I read the article. It detailed Jessica and Alex's live streaming escapades, calling out their unethical use of funds and their complete disregard for their audience. Apparently, someone had tipped off the media about their antics. The best part? The article included screenshots of their stream and a direct link to my divorce filings, which painted Jessica in a very unflattering light. The comments on the article were a stark contrast to her social media posts. Commenter 1. Wait, she cheated on her husband and streamed it? What a clown. Commenter 2. Her poor husband. Can't imagine what he's going through. Commenter 3. Karma always wins. For the first time in weeks, I felt a flicker of hope. Jessica's house of cards was starting to collapse, and I didn't even have to lift a finger. But deep down, I knew she wasn't done yet. Jessica was like a cornered animal, and cornered animals are dangerous. The question wasn't if she'd retaliate, it was how. The moment my video went live, I knew there was no turning back. I didn't post it to humiliate Jessica or to settle scores. I posted it because I needed to take back control of my story. For too long, I had been the silent victim, absorbing the lies and betrayal while she painted herself as the wounded party. It was time for the truth to come out. At first, the reaction was overwhelming. People I hadn't spoken to in years reached out, some offering support, others simply stunned by the revelation. My inbox was flooded with messages from strangers, some sharing their own stories of betrayal, others applauding me for standing up for myself. It was surreal to see my private life become a topic of public discussion, but in a way, it was cathartic. Jessica, as expected, didn't stay silent for long. Less than 24 hours after my video went live, she posted her own response, titled, The Truth About My Husband's Lies. The thumbnail showed her sitting in front of a softly lit backdrop, her face tear-streaked and somber. I almost didn't watch it, but curiosity got the better of me. In the video, she accused me of twisting the facts, of manipulating evidence to make her look bad. She claimed that our marriage had been a prison for her, that she had felt unloved and ignored, and that Alex had been her support system during a difficult time. She even went as far as to say that the live stream was a misunderstanding, insisting it was a private moment that had been taken out of context. It was hard to watch, not because I believed her, but because I knew there were people who would. Jessica had always been good at spinning a narrative, at making herself look like the victim. But this time, she underestimated the weight of the evidence against her. The comments on her video were a mixed bag. Some people bought into her story, offering words of encouragement and sympathy. But others weren't so convinced. Commenter 1. Wait, didn't she live stream herself with another guy? How is that a misunderstanding? Commenter 2. If she felt so unloved, why didn't she just leave instead of cheating? Commenter 3. This feels like damage control. Something's not adding up. For every supportive comment, there were 2 or 3 questioning her version of events. It was clear that the tide was turning, but Jessica wasn't one to go down without a fight. The next few days were a blur of meetings with Diane, my lawyer, and gathering evidence for the upcoming hearing. Diane was confident in our case. Jessica's video might win her sympathy online, she said, but in court, facts matter more than feelings. And we have plenty of facts. She wasn't wrong. Between the financial records showing how Jessica had misused our joint funds, the texts and emails provided by Rachel, and the live stream footage, we had a rock-solid case. But Diane warned me not to get overconfident. Jessica will try to twist everything in her favor, she said. We need to be ready for anything. Rachel, Jessica's former friend, had been a godsend. Her testimony about Jessica's plans to leave me for Alex, along with the messages she provided, painted a clear picture of premeditated betrayal. "I just want to see justice served," Rachel told me during one of our meetings. "Jessica's hurt too many people, and it's about time she faced the consequences." The hardest part was staying silent while Jessica continued to spread her narrative online. She posted cryptic updates about standing strong in the face of lies and choosing happiness over toxicity. Her followers ate it up, showering her with praise for her supposed bravery. It was infuriating, but Diane insisted that responding would only play into her hands. Instead, I focused on preparing for the hearing. I reviewed every piece of evidence, every document, every message. By the time the court date arrived, I was ready. Walking into the courtroom that day, I felt a mix of nerves and determination. Jessica and I avoided eye contact as we took our seats on opposite sides of the room. Alex wasn't there, which surprised me. For someone who had been such a prominent part of this mess, his absence spoke volumes. Diane opened with a detailed presentation of our case. She laid out the financial discrepancies, the texts and emails, and the timeline of Jessica's affair with Alex. When she brought up the live stream, the judge raised an eyebrow. "Mrs. Cooper, can you explain the context of this video?" he asked, his tone neutral but firm. Jessica's lawyer tried to spin it as a misstep, claiming it had been a private moment that was accidentally made public. But Diane was ready. She presented metadata proving the live stream had been deliberately scheduled and promoted. The judge didn't look impressed. Rachel's testimony was the turning point. She spoke calmly and confidently, detailing Jessica's manipulations and plans to leave me for Alex. Her honesty was undeniable, and it was clear the judge believed her. When it was Jessica's turn to take the stand, her usual confidence seemed to waver. She repeated her claims of feeling trapped and unloved, but under cross-examination, her narrative began to crumble. Diane's questions were sharp and precise, exposing inconsistencies in Jessica's story. By the time she stepped down, the damage was done. The judge's ruling was swift and decisive. The divorce was granted, with Jessica held accountable for the misuse of funds. She was ordered to repay the money she had taken, and her claims of emotional abuse were dismissed due to lack of evidence. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. Leaving the courtroom that day, I felt a sense of closure I hadn't thought possible. The pain of Jessica's betrayal was still there, but it no longer defined me. I was free to move forward, to start rebuilding my life on my own terms. Jessica's public image took a hit after the hearing. People who had once defended her began questioning her motives, especially after the court's decision. She retreated from social media, her posts becoming less frequent and more defensive. Meanwhile, Alex faded into the background, his role in all of this becoming little more than a footnote. As for me, I focused on the future. I sold the house we had shared and moved into a smaller, quieter place. I reconnected with old friends, picked up new hobbies, and started therapy to process everything I'd been through. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Looking back, I realized that Jessica's betrayal, as painful as it was, had given me a chance to rediscover myself. It forced me to confront my own insecurities, to learn how to set boundaries, and to value myself in ways I never had before. To anyone reading this who might be going through something similar, I want you to know that you're not alone. It's okay to feel angry, hurt, and lost. But it's also okay to let go, to focus on yourself, and to believe that better days are ahead. Because they are.